I'm not the house of cards that falls down easily. I'm strong enough to handle what you throw at me.
Welcome to Mental Health News Radio. I'm your host, Kristen Sunanta Walker. Just what are we going to discuss? The intimacy that is mental health. Let's continue to make it as comfortable as discussing brain health or heart health. This show has been on the air for several years and we have amazing co-hosts. And then we created a network of podcasters on mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com, a place where every possible facet of mental well-being can be talked about openly. My show, after several hundred interviews, the format is this: intimate, deep, funny, touching, sometimes uncomfortable, but always vulnerable conversations with interesting people. The goal is to have you, our listening family, many of you who have become my good friends, feel as though you are listening in on private conversations. Thank you for tuning in and becoming part of this amazing journey with me, and now with our network of podcasters. Just knowing this podcast might be helping any of you realize you are not alone on this journey called being a human being makes doing this podcast worth every second.
After all, we promised we'd be cordial.
Well, good morning, listeners. I have such a special treat for you today. We have Christine Louis de Canonville, our very own Irish Rose, joining us on Mental Health News Radio today. Hello, Christine.
Hello, Kristen. How are you?
I'm doing well. I mean, it is now April 21st of 2020, so we are still in lockdown across the planet. And I wanted to get with you and we have listeners, especially to the shows I do with you, that listen in over 170 countries. However,
Wow.
they do want to hear what's going on with you and what it's like in Ireland. And so we've been doing little spotlight shows. I just did one with my friend, Dr. Molino in Florence, Italy yesterday. So it's been interesting to feel how much other countries feel sorry for us in the United States for a lot of reasons. But but tell us a little bit about, I know you're around Dublin, Ireland, and what it's like there, how everyone is taking this coronavirus and the self-isolation and all of that.
Yeah. Well, we were very quick to respond over here when the news of this virus hit, and which was quite amazing how fast our government acted. I have to say we're very, very happy with the leadership we're getting at the moment. I'm not saying it's without difficulties or that we've not made our mistakes. We have, but generally they put us before economy very, very fast. And this is now my 6th week in lockdown. They passed, I won't say a law, but they asked anybody over the age of 70, and of course that would be myself and my husband, to go into cocooning. Okay. Now, they don't call it lockdown here, it's cocooning. And to be cocooned means you're going to be taken care of by everybody around you. So psychologically, it's a kind of a nicer title than lockdown. So basically, we're asked not to go out at all, not to cross our whole door. Stay safe, stay in. And of course, I have a son and a daughter, and they take care of our shopping and meds and things like that. But if you didn't have anybody to do that for you, there's loads of volunteers that have put themselves forward to do that task for anybody who's cocooning. So we got a brilliant atmosphere going on over here. It's almost like a party, environment, in the sense of it's like turning the clock back 50 years. We've all come together. We're moving in the same direction all together. There's no bulk buying. There's no jumping queues. There's no nonsense like that going on at all. It's all very, very soft and very, very gentle that I'm experiencing anyway.
That's lovely. I wish that was going
Yeah.
on here.
Yeah. Probably we would have been considered that we panicked in the beginning. There was no panic going on over here. Absolutely no panic. A decision was made, and we all surprisingly went with it. Now, we Irish are not very good at taking orders. We really aren't. And that's probably due to the fact that we were 800 years under British rule, taking orders from everybody. And so they don't issue us with orders. They put out ideas and ask us, how is that? And we all go with yes or no, and we're moving with that. And most of the time it's yes anyway.
Hmm.
So there's no rebelliousness or anything going on at the moment. And I think that's been very, very clever of our government, considering the Irish mentality. It was the right way to do it.
Do you see a difference between people that live in, let's say, Dublin, where it's a big city, as opposed to people
Yeah.
living in the country of Ireland?
Yeah. No, I would say that it's true. And of course, most of the deaths are in Dublin, but which you would expect in a capital. But no, I'm seeing it's like we've turned the clock back 50 years. We're back in my childhood time when people were polite and kind and compassionate and tender and looking out for you
Hmm.
and selfless, putting themselves in the firing line to protect you. Um, this is what I'm experiencing. Maybe other people might say something different, but those that I am speaking to on the phone are all saying exactly the same thing.
That's lovely. I mean, that is not what's going on here. I haven't seen anything or experienced anything here that's been rude. I know a
Yeah.
couple of, well, many of my friends have. One of them was a protester protesting the reopening of our society early, and they're wearing their surgical gown and masks and so on, and protesting a silent and very peaceful
Mhm.
protest of people demanding the economy open, and just, I mean,
Yeah.
almost being run over. It's just nuts. I mean, where I live out in the country, it's very peaceful in our little corner of the world because we make it that way. But there are many, many areas. I mean, the United States obviously is huge, but there are many, many areas here that are just not peaceful at all, and would have a hard time even making, their home peaceful because of what's going on in the homes around them.
Yeah. Yeah. We do get news. We do see what's happening around the world, and we do see what's happening in America. And I can say that we are definitely not following your leadership style. We're not at all.
Smart.
Uh, we can't make we can't make sense of the decisions that your leaders are making, or
Right.
your leader. We can't make sense of it. Talking about opening up and getting back to normal when you're hitting such high numbers of deaths daily. It just doesn't make sense to us. I mean, I see that you have something like 750,000 confirmed cases at the moment.
Right.
You've got over 42,500 deaths.
Yep. I know.
Now,
And
if you
it's
compare that to us, and I know it's too many deaths, even if it's one, it's too many. But our deaths at the moment, we have total cases of 15,500 confirmed, but we've had 687 deaths
right.
to date. Too many, it's still too high, but in comparison to our nearest neighbor, which is just across the water, which is England, they've had 16,500 deaths. Now they did what your leaders did. They delayed. They didn't take quick action. They delayed by nearly 2 weeks, I think. And they're paying the price for that now in the debts that they're having, I think.
It's fascinating too to me. I know, usually we're talking about something to do with narcissism. And what's interesting is to sit back and watch, because we have to be still somewhat, with this self-isolation and these stay home orders. I mean, ours is put much more differently here, but it's been interesting to see that they literally cannot have peace. It is not the way that their brains work. It's not the way that they're made up. So no matter what decision goes into play, it has to be divisive.
Yeah.
And that's been interesting to, we've been on such a roller coaster ride here for how many years now. And to see a modicum of peace, just maybe even a sliver of peace about one decision that gets made, and then to sit and wait, okay, when is the divisiveness going to come up about that decision?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
given me a really, I mean, I already knew this, but it's given me an even more detailed view of they literally can't be at peace with it. They're not at peace within themselves, and they have to make the world that way as well.
They thrive in drama.
Yes.
And even in this situation, we can see the daily drama that's going out in the tweets and things like that from your leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And, our heart goes out. Really, we're not people that actually our mouth drops, our jaw drops, and our mouths are left open. But they are with your leadership. We literally can't believe what's been done or what's not been done where you are.
It's inexplicable, and it just feels like, okay, just one more thing. Let's heap one more thing on an already just completely stressed to the max nation. We're getting to that, or we're past that point of I don't even read it anymore because I just know it's awful. I mean, I don't need to stare at a 500 car pileup on a freeway with flames coming out of it to know that it's a 500 car pileup on a freeway. I know what's going on, and I can't look at it every day. So in a way, it's very much, like trauma survivors, or that, they've lived through horrible trauma and they've learned how to cope and even how to thrive. And so those of us that have lived that life, we're really exercising those skills of resilience and the ability to make peace in our little sliver of the world, make it for ourselves out of a sheer just want and need to do that for ourselves, even with all this horrible stuff going on right outside our doorstep. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I think we Irish people have always admired America. We've always admired how you progress and how your leaders, a lot of the time, your leaders in research and things like that. This is highlighting really the lack of leadership to everybody, what's going on right now. And maybe it will be a blessing in disguise. But
it remains to be seen.
It does remain to be seen. It does.
I mean,
and everybody that I speak to in America, and I've made quite a lot of American friends over the last 10 years, they're all lovely. Yous are all lovely people. Yous are all so tolerant.
Yeah.
I can't believe how tolerant that yous all are. I don't know whether yous realize how tolerant yous are. No wonder people have their freakouts over there. And then there's terrible consequences.
Right.
When you have these shootings and things that do go on from time to time in your country. And maybe a lot of that is to do with the fact that yous are very, very tolerant. Yous put up an awful lot before yous actually blow. Were you aware of that?
Hmm. Interesting. I hadn't looked at it that way. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that we are, but you live in your own little microcosm. So yeah, that's interesting. I'll definitely examine that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It,
Well, I can see good coming out of all of this. I mean, certainly there seem, and now whether it'll last is another story, but definitely it's brought out, it's bringing out the best in us again.
good.
The compassion is, it's wonderful to see that softness, that gentleness that we people did have. It's only in the last 20 or 30 years that we really had this massive change go on over here. It was very, very fast when we came into, well, an illusion of money and materialism and things which we never were. We were always poor. But it didn't do us any good, didn't make us nicer people at all.
I wonder if I mean, goodness, that would be huge if America wasn't focused on commercialism.
Yeah,
But that I feel that way. I feel this just in my own personal life, such a different, all of those things that I never felt were important, like what kind of a house I live in, what kind of a car I drive, my clothes, blah, blah, blah. None of those things were ever at my core important to me. And I wasn't really raised for those things to be important to me, but I was raised to believe that they should be important. And
yeah,
society certainly tells you here that that's what's important. And with all of what's going on, I am so happy to be kind of an anarchist about that and say, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to live in a tiny space and I'm going to live way out in the country and I'm not going to care about brand new this and brand new that. And I'm going to drive an old beat up pickup truck and I couldn't be happier about it. So in that way, it's those of us that really always wanted that kind of a life anyway. Now we see what's going on, and a lot of us are saying, you know what? We've always wanted that kind of a life. And so, by God, we're going to have that kind of a life. And we do not care what anyone thinks about that.
well, I think that there's actually going to be relief. We've all been running so fast to keep up with the materialistic end of things
Hmm.
that our values have completely changed. Everything has changed. Now we're getting a break where all of our, I don't know if it's the same for you over there. I think it is. Our creches and schools are all closed down and have been for the last month. And so people are getting to be at home with their children.
Right.
And little ones will never have ever have had that before. Never. I mean,
Right.
from the age, once the babies are old enough to go to creche, it takes two parents to run a home these days. And I'm sure it's the same for you over there.
Absolutely.
And so as soon as the children are old enough to be taken into creche, they're going in there, and the parents are going back to work. The mom is going back to work. Now the children are getting a taste of having mom and dad around them at the moment.
Right.
And I think this is going to be quite a shake-up to everybody's thinking. You know, I know a lot of mothers are nearly working to pay for the creche, the childminders. Most of their wages go on that. They're very expensive, the childminding over here. It's not cheap.
I used to think about that too when Michael and our son was little. I would have a management job of some kind, but we got to the point where one of us stayed home because
Yeah,
we added up how much money it cost, gas, clothes, dry cleaning, food, time, and then the daycare costs. And it
yeah,
actually was more expensive to pay for daycare and all of that than it was for one of us to just be home.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but the hard part about that was, okay, if we don't do the other, then we can't live in the neighborhood that we should be, quote unquote, living in, and we can't, we have to keep up with what other people are doing, and what if they think negatively. I mean, I had so much shame around where we lived and how we lived. Friends would come and visit from high school, and and here I am with a baby, and they would, uh, I mean, I was 18 or 19 when I had my son, but friends I had been in high school with would come over, and there would be all of this shame.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't
Mhm.
coming from a lot of them. Maybe that was just me feeling completely ashamed that I
Yeah.
had this child so young. And what's amazing is when you get older, you re-look at how you did things, and all of those things that made my partner not a good partner, and I've made a bad choice or he's made a bad choice or whatever. Now we look at each other and we go, oh my gosh, we're the luckiest people alive that we
Yeah.
have each other. And all that
Yeah.
stuff, why did we think all that? Who cares? Look at what we have. It's quite
Yes.
amazing. It's quite amazing to sunset all those old things that you wished had taken up so much of your precious time, but now we're having this love festival because we just don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Like I was laughing at my son-in-law went actually into his friend's house to fix his washing machine because they've just had a second baby. And I said, now hang on, that's not an emergency. What were you doing going in there? And he said, well, they were stuck. They were, they've only got, the baby and all the rest of it. I said, I never had a washing machine in my life when I had children. Never. It was no hardship to actually wash your things in the sink.
Right.
It's certainly, and he said, oh, see, they haven't known what it is not to have washing machines or dishwashers, this generation.
I
They
know
don't,
you
they
you were
don't
laughing
know.
at me because
Yeah.
I was typing something somewhere, maybe it was on Facebook, and I said, yeah, I need to have a dryer for my underwear, and you were like, a dryer for your underwear?
I don't remember that, did I?
Yes, it was hilarious.
Well, that would be alien to me. I've never had a dryer. Oh, I did actually once have a dryer. That's a lie. I did once. Yeah.
It's just in that way, the ways that we're talking about now about the slowing down and the letting go of very, material things. I mean, well, we've been eating food that we grow, and we've been eating eggs from the chickens that are right
Wow.
outside, and we've been
Yeah.
and our house is, I've always said I think it would be lovely to live in a home that looks like something no one would ever want to rob from, but then you walk inside and it's a little palace. And that's what,
Yeah.
be careful what you create, because we have this little home out in the country. I can see the horses and I can walk right up to the field and everything, and no one would think to take anything. But boy, we can launch a plane with the technology that's in this house. But it's
Yeah.
nice to have this little quiet corner. And I had this thought last night, Christine, and you have to tell me if you ever had this thought. There's so much that I don't pay attention to. I was laying in bed and I thought, gosh, I really feel as though I could pass my days just getting up, feeding the animals, having a lovely breakfast, puttering around, going and spending some time with the animals again, and then reading a good book and going to bed, and that I could do that for years. And I had a panic and went, but but wait, what, should I be feeling that? What do you think about that?
I think you're looking for what we all hanker for. I think we're basically simple people at heart.
Mm,
I think we're in this rat race. We're running, running, running because that's what everybody around us are doing. And we feel that we should be doing that, or there's something wrong with us. But we all hanker for the simple things in life. And
yeah,
I don't think that matters what age you are. A child still just wants to get up on mommy or daddy's knee and have a cuddle.
right.
And it doesn't matter whether they have Nike trainers on their feet or not. It doesn't matter. They still just want the cuddle. And
Right.
we've got our priorities. It went wild, it went crazy, but now we have an opportunity. This virus is bringing with it opportunity. Um, and I'm not making less of the deaths and the carnage that it's created. Please don't hear that. But it will bring opportunities. We now have a chance. For the first time since the war, our air is pure. I got up the other morning and looked out my window. It was about 7 in the morning. It was like crystal. It was like looking through clear, clear crystal. And we don't have we wouldn't consider that we have a lot of pollution around us. I live right by the sea, and I'm about 13 or 14 miles outside of the center of Dublin. So I'm kind of on the outskirts, but it was sparkling. Look, the leaves, the green, everything had a sparkle.
Hmm.
And I remembered I used to see that when I was a kid. I hadn't realized I hadn't seen it for a long, long time. So we all have fresh air once again. Um, we can hear, even living in the city, we can hear the birds singing. We didn't hear that for a long, long time. You couldn't with the traffic, sound of the traffic. We're hankering, we have an opportunity to get back to the more simplistic life, which in fact was a much better life. You
Absolutely.
know, what you had and the story you told of when you didn't have very much materially, but you had time with your child. My story would be very, very similar. And seriously, I mean, I really didn't have a washing machine. That I'm not just saying that was true. I didn't have very much, but I had wealth. I had all that really truly mattered. I
Right.
had time to sit and read stories with my children. I had time to play with them. They never did go into a creche. And that's not patting myself on the back. This is more, I'm saying, the sadness of what's happening to young mothers and fathers today. Their children are going to creche at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they're coming home about an hour before they go to bed at night. They're not all getting to be together, not really.
Right.
So you and I had wealth. We didn't necessarily realize it, but we can look back now and we can know actually how lucky were we to have that.
That time that I spent with my son where he would just run around. We called him Nudie Man because he would run around naked and he'll kill me for saying this, but that's what he did. We had mud behind the house and I would get a hose out and I would make it even more muddy and he would just run around naked and be covered in mud all day long.
Yeah,
My day was spent washing him off and
yeah,
then him going out and starting it all over again. But to take that time, to do that, and you're right. I mean, I feel sort of the wolves nipping at my heels, even though I'm not calling my friends or my colleagues wolves, but they're still, many of them are still in that. But we've got to do, we've got to do, we've got to do. So
yeah,
so
yeah,
I'm in this peaceful place, and I get the phone calls and well, Kristen, you need to get on this call. Kristen, you've got to get this thing. And you probably feel that for me sometimes when I try to get you to do a show and you don't want to, but I get it several times a day, and I've had to tell people quite emphatically, nicely, but firmly, you know what, I understand this is how you're reacting to what's going on, but I don't want to be pushed. I don't want you to push me. I'm not I don't care about being on television. I have someone that every day, several times a day, we've got to get you, these companies want to have you on TV. They want to have you filming, we've got, they're waiting to get on the phone and you need to be more ambitious about it. And you know what? I don't care.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just don't care if I never am on YouTube or what. I don't care.
Well, I think something similar has happened to me. Uh, this crisis has definitely touched me in some way that I'm not fully aware of just yet, where I've completely switched off from absolutely everything I was doing. I'm not writing, I'm not researching, I'm not I'm not doing anything, I'm not tweeting, I'm doing very, very little by way of Facebook or anything. I'm posting hardly anything at all. I've switched off completely. And I've turned my attention to my little house. My house is quite small, but I live in a most beautiful area. For those people who know Ireland, I live in a little place called Killiney, and it's by the sea, and it's very, very beautiful. Around my surroundings are beautiful. Um, and I decided to turn my attention to my house because I've been writing, 3 books in 5 years. All my time went on that, to be honest, and I neglected my little house. So now, in the last 4 weeks or so, all my attention is going on the house. We're painting and we're decorating and we're just giving love back to the house, something I haven't done for a while.
It's nice, isn't it?
I didn't have time to appreciate what I have got around me. I don't need more of. I really don't need more. I don't need more shoes. I don't need more jumpers. I just need to be able to drink in what I actually have got around me, which is beauty. And I've switched off completely from narcissism for the moment, but I dare say I'm going to come back different. Maybe. I don't know what's going to happen for me in the future. But I think the break from it actually is probably very good because I was eating and sleeping and drinking narcissism for the last 10 years.
Right.
And
Right.
now I'm taking a
Exactly.
break.
Yeah, I don't know what I mean, I could sit and do these shows for the rest of my life and be perfectly content. I don't know that anyone would want to listen to them for the rest of my life, but I'm perfectly content doing this and doing a bit of on the phone consulting. But if I never go to another conference ever in my life, I would be happy. I don't want to
Yeah,
get on a plane. I don't want to travel anywhere. I really just want to be home. And I'm amazed at how much your day can be filled up with the things that you can get into in your own home.
absolutely. And we haven't gone to bed before 2 o'clock in the morning any day since this virus.
Hmm.
And we look and we say, "Oh my God, is that hour again? How did it get to be 2 o'clock in the morning again? We've done it again." I don't know what we're doing. I know we're doing painting and stuff, but we only do that for a certain amount of hours in the day anyway. And then the rest of the day, we're just being. And you know something? It's lovely just being.
Yeah, it really is. It really, really is. There's so much room for joy and laughter. And listeners, I was telling Christine last night, my ex-husband has moved in with me over the last couple of days, and we just could not. I mean, we started our relationship 33 years ago laughing hysterically. That's how we just make each other laugh. And then we had marriage and a child and financial problems and then the laughter stopped for a long time, and now we're back to the laughter. But it was hysterical because he doesn't know the layup of my house, and so he was trying to find the bathroom. And about 2 in the morning, as you're talking about, Christine, I hear puttering around, and Chris, where is the bathroom? And I laughed. I just woke up laughing in hysterics because it's a very long bathroom. I just can't find where I'm going. And I said, "I'm sorry, you walked into the door in my home that goes to the land of Narnia." And then we were both in hysterics. And then for the next 2 hours, we both kept waking up giggling about the same thing. And I lay there and I thought, oh my gosh, this is how we were when we first met.
Yeah.
How
And
amazing.
this will be a time just for you too.
Yeah. Yeah, because we don't have all
That'll be
that.
different. Yeah.
We don't
Because
have
you've
all
done
that
all that other
pressure.
bit. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But without what's happening in our world, um,
Yes.
and all as horrible. And I have two friends that have passed away and many that were very ill. So this has not been me living in some kind of a bubble. I know the reality of this
Mhm.
all too well. And even with all of that, to be able to carve out these moments of just pure joy and to feel so nested and connected feels so good. Just feels very, very good amongst all of this trauma that's going on.
And I think that's so important what you just said there, nesting and connecting. There are a lot of people who are on their own today in their isolation. I'm very lucky that I'm with Jack, my husband. Um, we met each other in 1956,
Mhm.
64 years or something ago. We're living together 53 years or something like that. I can't remember exactly. But we're still good friends. We are good friends, and we haven't had one crossword since we've been in cocooning at all. You know, we're being good friends, but not everybody has that.
Right.
A lot of people are out there alone today, and it must be awful being on their own so much. So you and I are very lucky that we have someone in our life, we, and your animals and your, you know, we are rich, Kristen.
Yes.
We are rich. We need no more, really.
Yeah, I
I,
don't. I don't need more
we
than
might
what I've
want it,
got.
but we don't need it.
Mm-mm. No, I mean, I want to trade in my new car and just get an old, pickup truck.
Yeah,
That's literally, I want to get rid of more things. So yeah, not
yeah,
to wax poetic to anyone that's really suffering right now.
yeah.
I would say look at this show as just an example from different corners of the world of how people are taking what's happening. And there are plenty of shows on my network that talk about what it's like to be quarantined with a malignant narcissist and what it's like. There's that information
Okay, okay,
is
that's good.
there and available for people
Yeah,
that are living through it right
mm,
now. But and it's nice to have a very peaceful, different experience of life right now, even
yeah.
with what's going on. And I'm so glad that you and listen, listeners. I have to beg Christine. If we weren't such good friends, she would not be coming on this show because I'll have people say, "Well, why I can't get her to come on my shows," and try to guilt me into getting. And I'm not saying a word to her. I'm lucky, and I'm not going to kick a gift horse. So you're on your own there. But
Well,
thank.
I would say I'm actually still doing remote working from home. I'm still doing therapy sessions.
Hmm.
And so I'm hearing the kind of fears that are coming up for the clients that I am working with. Um, and I think really we need to try and keep things as simple as we possibly can right now because it's never been so harsh on us. So we need to be kind to ourselves, we need to be soft with ourselves. And we need to take care of our mental health in these weeks that we are locked up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if that means getting on a Zoom call with and being
Mm-hmm.
on camera with your friends and whatever it is, people are
Yeah,
doing dance parties in their homes
yeah,
or they're just I mean I've had people just call me out of the blue that, we talk, but we don't have a chat. We don't sit down with a cup of coffee and have a chat. We talk
yeah,
and it's about business. And so they're calling me just to have a chat and that's and to say I'm very stressed and some of these are considered world leaders when it comes to mental health and they call to just have a chat and that feels really good and it's something that I can give and they do the same for me. So I think reorganizing how we all live our lives. It reminds me of when I was very, very young. I was in my early 20s and I got an invitation to go to Sweden for a few weeks. And I was living in Southern California. and definitely feeling this shame around, oh, you're divorced already and you're so young, and oh, you're a single parent, and oh, you have a low paying job, and all those things. And then I go to Sweden and see a very different way of living from the United
Uh-huh.
States, and I came home and I changed the way that I live immediately. So hopefully this what's happening is going to do that for a lot of people, and we can let go of all of this stuff that we've been told
Yeah,
and sold is so important, when it doesn't matter to the stirrings of our souls.
absolutely. And I think we all need to remember that, yes, we are in the middle of a crisis, but we need to stay in the now. And we need to remember that this will pass. And the way I deal with my day, how I keep myself mentally healthy, really, is that every morning when I wake up, the first thought that I have is, I'm grateful that I'm actually alive.
Yeah.
And also that I've got plenty of food in my cupboard, and am connected to my family and friends like you, Kristen.
Hmm.
And so that's my first thought in the morning. It's one of gratitude. It doesn't cost me anything, but it sets my mind for the day. I'm starting on a positive. I'm not trying to start on a positive, but that's what it's actually doing. And then during the day, I'm very conscious of the thoughts that are going on in my mind. And sometimes I can find, like, I'm sure that your listeners will be the same, that sometimes our thoughts can be negative or positive. So I also, when I find that I have got a negative thought, I actually ask myself, is right now, is this helpful or harmful to me? And a lot of the times I realize that I'm generating a little anxiety in myself. So I change that. Um, so literally, if you're locked up with the kids, and I know that must be very, very hard. Thank God I'm not locked up with kids at the moment. But if you are, and you find that they're getting on your last nerve and you're about to kill them or explode, ask yourself, is this reaction really worth it? Really? So they didn't pick up their towel in the bathroom. So what? So what? They're alive. You have them around you. So give yourself a moment and ask yourself, is this useful or is this actually hurting me right now? And if it's hurting you, then do something about it. Change your focus.
I've seen that in the way of, I'm in reconnection with my mother, as an example. Many listeners have heard the show
Yeah.
I've done about that, and it still has its moments. But I and I'll be asked, well, I know that that's going to bother you if we do this, Kristen. My mother will say something like that, and I just say, no, doesn't bother me. I just want peace. And that's really how I feel. I can either hang on to something that, man, I could type up a encyclopedic letter of why I have every right to be angry about this particular thing.
Yeah.
And it's my choice. And I'm not rolling over. I'm not letting abuse happen. I'm just choosing, you know what? I just want peace. So a lot of what's going on out there right now, I think, is bringing kind of a crystallized view into your home now, where a lot of those things, not that you tolerate being abused or what have you, and maybe because I spent 2 years really working on my anger, I have no idea what the answer is, but I just choose a peaceful route for me, and that feels better to me, and I don't feel like I'm giving up some kind of power or control. I just feel like I'm giving up a lot of stuff that I don't want to be a part of.
Well, what you're talking about there really is resilience. You really, that's what you're talking about. And resilient people, they actually do look at what can they do differently that will make them feel better. And that's what you're talking about there. Rather than reacting in a way that you may have done in the past, you're choosing to take a moment, reflect on what's this doing to me with mom? Will I mention it to mom? Will I not mention it to mom? Whatever it is that's going on. And you're actually being very resilient, and you're getting, you're realizing, you're taking a moment to realize what's going on inside of you. Now that's really important, because um I worked with a lot of shamans over time, and they have something that they call the heroic moment. Have you ever heard of that?
No, no.
Well, it's interesting because it's not, it's about what you're talking about, really. They say that we, staying in the now, we need to be aware of what's going on within ourselves. And how we do that, I mean, a practical way of knowing about what's going on in yourself is being aware of your five senses. So what you're seeing right now, what that's doing to you, what you're hearing right now, what that's doing to you, your taste, your touch and smell. And if you know what is going on for you in that moment, then this is the heroic moment that the shaman talks about, because you can then take the action to bring yourself to a state of mindfulness where you're aware of what's going on. And then you can actually move or act with intention. So with your mom, something that in the past might have irritated you and you two would have exploded. Today, you're being resilient. You're maybe discussing it with her, maybe you're not, but you're taking action. But you're checking in with yourself with one of your senses, what mom is doing to you right now, and what you're hearing, what you're seeing in her, and how it's affecting you. And then you are actually choosing to move, take the next action with mindfulness. And it sounds like it's working for you, and probably it's working for her as well.
Absolutely. She's in a different place. I'm in a different place. My ex-husband is in a different place.
Yeah.
We're all weather beaten, time and weather beaten. So we just don't want to. We could. The fight is still there. We're a bunch of fighters, but we choose not to engage in that way. I think we all just, after the lives we've lived, we all just want peace. And so along comes this ultimate test, which is what's going on in our world of how do you make peace with what's going on right outside your door, maybe right inside your home, whatever it is. If you are a frontline worker and you're having to get up and go be working at a grocery store, go be at a hospital working as a nurse, having to go do those things and still taking that extra moment to stop and be proactive and choose the experience you're going to have, choose how you're going to see what's happening in your life. And that
Yeah.
takes a hell of a lot of restraint and work, to rather than just living at the whim of, whatever your emotions are blowing one way or the
Yeah.
other.
And it's remembering to check in with those five senses. Like yesterday, a heroic moment was not a big event here for me yesterday. It was something very, very small. So it doesn't have to be a big event. Like yesterday, I discovered this trashy program on the TV. It happens to be coming from America, but I've got hooked. And I've just got hooked. It's about people who have been talking to each other online for years, and they're going to meet each other for the first time, and with the intention of possibly marriage and all of that. And it's definitely very weird. But I never saw it before. Only being locked in is the first time I saw it anyway. So yesterday, anyway, I I had recorded two serials of it, and so I watched the first one, and I was feeling a bit. I became aware I was feeling a bit guilty because Jack was upstairs painting, and I was feeling I wasn't being helpful. I was watching telly. Anyway, I felt that I was feeling guilty, and I checked in with myself, and of course I had that heroic moment, and so I stopped and I said, okay, I can get up and I can do something worthwhile, or I can give myself permission to play the next installment of this show, and I really wanted to watch it. So I decided I had washed all of my cushion covers, but they all needed ironing, and it's a horrible job. I hate it. And so I decided that's what I would do in the hour. I would I would iron all of my couch covers while I watched this program and indulged myself. So I all of a sudden I was at peace.
Exactly. That
Yeah.
choice that you make. Same here. Where I've noticed many moments where in the past, Michael and I would have been irritated with each other over some of the things that have happened over the last couple of weeks with him moving in and so on. We would have gotten very irritated, quick tempered, and because we're older and we've been through so much, and we have the capacity to do what you just said, have that heroic moment where we just stop and reassess. We don't get angry. We turn it into a giggle,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's nice for right now. We have to, you know, there's plenty of phone calls that I am invited to, that I feel I'm honored to be invited on, where we are talking about horrible, horrible things, and we are talking about the horror that is going on right now. So the intention of this show was not to say, "Oh, Christine and I are traipsing through daisies." That wasn't the point at all.
No.
It's
No.
that we're not, and yet we are. You can have moments of traipsing through the daisies while there are bombs going off right in your front
Yeah.
yard. But
Yeah.
you are the person that is responsible for making that happen, and no one else. And that's what's so crystallized for me right now in this time.
Yeah. And when there's such good people out there doing the jobs that they're doing that are keeping us safe, like
Absolutely.
literally filling up those shelves with tins of beans for us and whatever, for the people that those that are going out there on the front line in the hospitals, in the care homes, that are risking their lives every single day. The greatest gift we can give to them is to stay as safe as we can so we don't overwhelm our health systems. So stay at home, take care of yourselves, try and to give yourself little projects to do that you feel you've achieved something at the end of your day. It doesn't matter how small or how big it is, but something, clear out your little drawer that's been annoying you for months. If, keep yourself healthy mentally and stay safe and well. That way you're helping everybody. Because if you get unwell, somebody will have to take care of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Christine, Louis de Canonville from Dublin, Ireland, thank you so much for taking the time out this morning, which is your afternoon, to come on and speak with me. This gives you a pass for like a good 6 months before I ask you again.
Oh, well, it's always a pleasure to come and speak with you because you don't put any pressure. And we didn't have a clue what we were going to speak about, so
Oh,
we didn't think about didn't think about what we were going to be saying. And I hope that we've managed to say something of worthwhile. But I've enjoyed speaking with you anyway, Kristen, even if people don't enjoy listening to us today.
oh, they will. There's always those little nuggets. Heroic moment. So listeners, this is what I did, because that's what happens with Christine. And that's what happens in life. You have to, not everything is sis boom ba rah rah rah. You have to find the nuggets, and the nuggets come in a conversation. They can come through a winding conversation. So that's why it's important, story is important. So and there were many nuggets for me from this conversation, but one of them is the term heroic moment. As Christine was talking, I wrote it on my little eyeglass case, and that sits and stares at me when I'm on my computer. And so now from this conversation, I will glance at that and remember, heroic moment. How many, no pressure, but how many of those do you want to notice in your life today? So thank you for that, Christine.
Well, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. And please, everybody, stay safe and well. And, there is good opportunity coming from this tragic time as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, listeners, for sticking it out with us all these years and for tuning in to another episode of Mental Health News Radio.
Hi, listeners. I'll make it quick. These are some really cool places that give discounts and other cool things for listeners of Mental Health News Radio Network. If you want to get amazing help with healing from narcissistic abuse, go to healfromanarcissist.com. If you want CBD products that are the best of the best, I use them myself, go to proze.com and use the code mentalhealth20, mentalhealth20. If you want to get daily perk ups that help retrain your brain to think more positively, go to perkupdaily.com. And also, just because this one's fun, snarkycandles.com. I guarantee you'll love them. Snarky with a Y, SNARKY, candles.com. And don't forget, if you want to hear all the shows on the network about first responders, you can go to firstrespondermentalhealthnetwork.com, and all of our shows that focus on narcissistic abuse, narcissisticabusehealingnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, and back to the show.
Sometimes I'm passive aggressive, but never without good intentions. I heat up and act on my emotions.
Thanks so much for listening to Mental Health News Radio. Our podcast can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, and hundreds of other podcast apps, or you can visit our website at mentalhealthnewsradio.com. If you have a question or would like to be a guest, become a podcaster on our network, or join the amazing organizations that help keep us on the air, please email us at info@mhnrnetwork.com. Get ready for that special goodbye from our resident therapy dog, Miles, and a special thanks to Emily Sohn for letting us use her incredible song, Cordial, for our podcast music. Listen to the full song on SoundCloud at emily.sonne.
Don't be surprised when I don't hate on you. After all, we promised we'd be cordial. Sometimes in you I can fight it.
Good boy.